Started. Hopefully a few other people join on, but we're excited to see all that Ken has, and we want to give him plenty of time. So thanks everybody for joining today. I'm you for some new faces and names too. So the main of this has to relate to Minnesota's Planetarium Network and relates to the fact that SCIS went out of business. So we're all still running UniView, but we can't expect that it's going to continue to run indefinitely. We need to make sure that we can keep our planetariums running. And the solution we're working with Illuminati on is to transfer the type of programming that we do as far as navigating the real-time universe to OpenSpace. OpenSpace is an open source program developed by the same people who developed UniView. So it has a lot in common with UniView. And some of you recently may have seen some demos. Dome Dialogue, the Cal Academy did an OpenSpace demo. Just yesterday, Illuminati had one, and over this past year, Illuminati's offered some more. And those have been kind of from the OpenSpace high-level users' perspective, like even mostly the developers. Like, here's our product, this is what OpenSpace can do. Dantel has a little more of a user perspective, but still it was kind of, really similar to that same type of demo. But we're going to be using it in our teaching domes, which is a lot different than how I've seen OpenSpace used anywhere just on these demos. But Ken has been doing OpenSpace for over a year now. And so I thought, as we're thinking ahead over the next year, transitioning from UniView to OpenSpace, before we just jump in and start going, it'd be good for us to really have an understanding of how to use OpenSpace in a teaching dome. And so that's why I invited Ken to give us a demo, and I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. A few of you joined on kind of after I started talking. I didn't give much of an introduction, just hi, and it's good to see you all again, and some new faces too. I guess I'll turn it over to Ken. You can let us know how you want to take questions, things like that. And I was going to remind you, make sure you're recording. You sure are, so there you go.
Thank you. I appreciate your introduction, because I'm sitting here clicking people into the room here, so gave me some time to focus on that. But I think we're sitting at 14 participants, and I'll try and keep my eye open if somebody wants to jump in. But my name's Ken Murphy. I'm the planetarium director here at SMSU in Marshall, Minnesota. And for many years, I was using UniView and decided to give OpenSpace a try. And so far, so good. I really like it. Probably the big high point for me was back in July last year for the Apollo 50th anniversary. That was my first real big thing with OpenSpace. And I'll grab this. Made the front page of our daily paper. Oh, you can't see that probably. There it is, sort of. Okay, but anyway, it was a really big hit, and I sort of copycatted a lot of what Carter Emmerich did at the Hayden Planetarium. He really had a nice presentation style, and I tried to emulate that as much as I could, and it really went over well. Anyway, if you haven't already watched it, I would urge you to watch the Dome Dialogues e-conference number 11. Dantel gave an introduction to OpenSpace, and he got a little technical in some areas, and maybe that's something too you want to kind of put away and bring back out after you've gotten more used to OpenSpace, because he probably shot over some heads a little bit, but it's still good stuff there. And as you're getting more and more used to it, I know I'll be rewatching it for some of the things he was saying. Anyway, if you want to go and access OpenSpace, go to openspaceproject.com. You can download it. They are, right now, the current version is 0.15.1. And I was told that the next version's coming out June 1st. And there's pretty good confidence level that they'll make that day. And it's not a major new release. It's going to be sort of a minor one. So I'm guessing it'll be 0.15.2. But they'll fix a lot of bugs, and they'll add a lot of new objects, mainly asteroids and trans-Neptunian objects. So I'm very much looking forward to that. If you have any questions, just jump right in. This is a small enough group. I think we can manage things that way. Just jump in. And Sally, if you want to watch the chat, and if somebody asks a question on chat, let me know, because it's kind of hard to keep my eye on everything. Comparison to UniView is what I'd like to talk about next. It operates, once you're up and running, it operates a lot like UniView, but it's still not as feature-rich as UniView, but it's coming along. So I think as time goes on, it'll, a lot of those gaps will get filled in. What are some of the things I miss about UniView? I miss the modules, the way they're so easy to import new ones and get them going. You can still do effectively the same thing. What else? Panels, there's nothing like panels in OpenSpace. Custom events, you can kind of work around to get things like custom events going, but nothing exactly like it. Another kind of downside right now is the launcher. If you've tried it, the launcher can be a little frustrating. It crashes a lot. I'm going to show you the launcher, and it really doesn't even work completely for me either, but I still use it because it allows me to create profiles, and that's really important. There's some missing things like Phobos and Deimos aren't there. Ceres isn't there. There's no Oort cloud, no Kuiper belt objects, although they're sort of coming in the next release on June 1st, so hang on for that. Any questions yet?
What version are you using, Ken?
I'm using the most current version, and I'm going to actually launch it in just a moment here, and I'll do a screen share.
So the 15 or whatever they have?
15.1. Okay. And that was released back in February. And what was really cool about it is they've really gotten the volumetric Milky Way going. Prior to that, it was just an image, a flat image, which looks okay from certain angles, but it really doesn't do the trick like a volumetric Milky Way does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen share, and I'm just going to watch and show you how it launches on my machine. And I have to tell you that I've been adding things to it. And I'll try and be clear about what you'll see when you launch versus what I've added to it, because I've kind of gone crazy over the last month or so, learning new features and trying them out. And that'll give you a sense too of what you can do once you get a little more comfortable with it. So let's do screen share. Hopefully you can see that okay. I've got a little launcher at the bottom. So I'm just going to run OpenSpace here, and I've set it up so that it's in fisheye mode. I like to do that just because even though I'm in my my faculty office, it's nice to be able to test things in a circle format. But by default, you'll be in flat mode. And I'll show you how to switch back and forth after I give you a little bit of a tour of OpenSpace. So it's launching. You can see in the background, this thing is just telling you where it is in the launching phase. Once in a while, you'll see red shoot across, and red are warnings or failures as it's trying to load the different components and parts, and we call them assets in OpenSpace. Thankfully, though, even though you might see a little bit of red, it still lets me run OpenSpace. Sometimes if you get too many of them, there's something right there. And so it gives you some rationale to what's going on as well, so you can try to chase down any small errors that are going on. All right, so here it is. So it's got kind of a dome view, and this is something, this is called a screen space image. And this is something that's relatively new to OpenSpace, and I like that it just launches with that on, because when I start a show, there it is. And I've actually got, this morning I imported a PowerPoint into OpenSpace, and it's a little bit faint, but there it is. There's my first slide of a PowerPoint. It actually would look dome corrected if we were watching this in the dome. And so here's my talk for this morning. Can you guys all read the text, or is that
No.
too small?
I cannot read the text.
Okay, all right. I'll make sure then that I, anyway, you won't need to be able to read it anyway. But anyway, just to show you that we can do this. And it's easy once you get a slideshow going. It's just a set of images that it's playing out of a folder. And I'm just arrow keying through it. And so it's really easy. I can go forward, backward, turn them on, turn them off, and they fade nicely. I threw in some astronomical images here to show you how that works. So again, this won't work right out the gate. It takes a little bit of tweaking in the background to make this happen, but it's fairly easy, and it's really easy once you get it working.
That's sweet.
Oh, it's great for presentations. And in the end, I think what I'll have are kind of the classic slides when questions come up where you need kind of a picture to pull up. I'm going to have a whole bunch of my favorites right there that I can go grab and show the audience.
Can you fix, sorry.
Yep.
Can you fix images on the celestial sphere?
So they rotate with the stars?
Right.
Yeah, that can be done. I've never done it before, but I know you can do it. Actually, just this morning, I downloaded and installed the Zodiac constellation outlines, and that's what they are. They're just images that are kind of carefully placed onto the celestial sphere, and they kind of move as you move. I can show that. Let me pull that up. In just a minute, I'll pull it up. So next thing is scene. Scene is where you'll probably do most of your work. Oops, I have to just check here. Okay, so let's open that up. And when you start out, you are focused on Earth. So this is like your target from UniView, but they call it a focus. So we're focused on Earth. And if Mars was our focus, that would be the first thing to come up. But I'm going to collapse that. This is our object tree in the GUI. And down in the planetarium, I have this on a separate screen. But I like them together as I'm experimenting here. But this is what I added today, this morning. I imported this. These are constellations, and it's really just the Zodiac plus Orion. But let me just throw Orion in there. And then you can see Orion is placed way out in the distance, but it's just an image. I don't see why it couldn't be any other kind of image. A lot of times that's how I learn things in OpenSpace, is I take what somebody else did and then I learn how to kind of tweak and change it. It's like, okay, so that's what I would do if I wanted to place an image in the stars, or maybe have an astronomical photo that's kind of matched up with a nebula or something. I would probably copycat what they did with these Zodiac constellations.
Sarah said she missed that. Did you talk about how you did that, or is that basically what you're saying? You've seen other people have done it before, so you kind of
somebody else did this, and I just imported the assets and loaded it in. So I really didn't do much to make this work. And I should give credit. These were just released by City College in New York, the planetarium director there. I forget his name, but he's just a whiz with OpenSpace. And he made these available, as well as a few other things. He just uploaded TRAPPIST-1, the TRAPPIST-1 system, and that's really, really good. So I just installed that this morning. Okay, so how do we navigate? I'm just going to leave that up there. This is a lot like UniView. We can open up the solar system, and we can choose Earth. We could also choose it from up here. Several ways to access Earth. But if we open up the Earth, this little marker here, this target, this will target us onto Earth. We're already there. But, and you can also see the International Space Station by default is turned on. So if you want to get to that, you can go to Satellites and ISS, and then we can target the International Space Station like that. And can fly up and see it. They just added this in the last release as well. So there it is. It's just a model. It doesn't actually have textures on it yet, so but at least we have a model to work with. Textures are a little complicated in OpenSpace, but anyway, so I'm sure there will be nice texturing going on with it down the road. But so that was a nice addition. So again, this is just like the object tree, very similar. I think you'll adapt to it very quickly if you choose to go with OpenSpace. We'll go back to the Earth. So navigating around the planets is super easy. Also, we have this little menu down here. We're targeted on Earth, and you can actually set your favorites down on here as well. And by default, it's the Sun, Moon, Mars. So we can do a switch over to Mars. I'm going to try and speed up. There it is. So we're back at Mars. Phobos and Deimos are here, but there are no textures. So you just see kind of a bland sphere in their place. So at least you can see where they are in their orbits and talk about them a little bit. Any questions out there on how to do anything?
Yeah, we had a couple. You talked about the assets. Is there a community site or is it on the OpenSpace project page?
There's a GitHub site where you can get some of it. This one is the guy from New York. He put them on his own personal GitHub. And I found it on the Slack channel. You can learn about the Slack channel at openspaceproject.com. And it's a good idea to sign up. And that way you can kind of stay in tune with how OpenSpace is developing.
I'll put some notes on this
The
to kind of
UPR
send that
site
out.
was really handy because you can just go out. It's kind of a one-stop place to go and find a lot of the modules and things. It's not quite that organized. It'll probably get there someday, but it's not there yet. So a little more hunting and pecking to find things.
And then Paul asked, go ahead, Paul.
Well, yeah, I asked that question. If it comes with constellations, OpenSpace doesn't come with constellations?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
In fact, they're either all on or all off. You can't turn on individual ones, not yet anay. What I've done, and I've kind of gone, if you've watched Dan Tell's talk, he created this really wonderful web page with buttons on it. And that was his way of kind of doing things efficiently. I took kind of a different approach. I'm really into keyboard shortcuts, probably because of Blender and Stellarium. They're very keyboard shortcut heavy. So I wrote my own. And so all I do is hit the C key and they come on. And then I have another shortcut for the boundaries if I want to turn those on. But so they're just stick figures at this point. And now with these new ones I added today, I can put on the zodiac as images, as artwork. And I can overlay them on top. And I'll probably come up with a shortcut for the zodiac images.
Is it rotating right now because you have like a friction off or something? Or why
I turn friction off and we're just orbiting Mars slowly.
And then do you ever fly with a game controller or do you always use the mouse?
I always use the mouse. I'm not really a gamer, so I'm not really very adept to using a game controller, but maybe that's a superior way to do it once you're used to it. But I've never gotten used to it.
But OpenSpace will let us use controllers, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can use a joystick even, or a game controller will work.
Have you done a Earth-based star show like from ground on Earth, because I've been playing around with OpenSpace, and it doesn't seem to have the same feature that UniView had, that you could land on the planet.
Well,
And a lot of the shows that we have start off with things like that.
yeah, that's another kind of weakness in OpenSpace, is it's not very good, not really designed for ground-based astronomy. And probably and I've played with it, and you can set yourself down in the ground, and you can get set it all up so it's like you're ground-based. But one of the problems is you can't see planets in the sky. The planets, for some reason, just don't come through. Maybe it's the atmospheric effects. I'm not sure. You just can't see planets. Now, I mentioned this to the people at OpenSpace, and they very much want to move in that direction and add that feature. So hopefully that'll be coming down the road, but it's not there yet. So
to Jessica's point, one of the most popular presentations that I have is the backyard astronomy.
Right.
You know, Rochester at night, those get sold out because people want to come and learn about the stars they see every night. So it would be really nice if they could have a module or one of those, whatever, where it's backyard astronomy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this is where I don't want to say fully dubious, but I'm hesitant about switching over to this, because I feel like the shows that we have built rely so much on the complexities that UniView has, that there's no way we can replicate it in OpenSpace, at least not from what I've seen exploring it.
Yeah, there is some, in order to fully switch over, there's no way that I know of taking things and automatically importing them into OpenSpace from UniView and have them work the same. I think I just pretty much figured I'm going to recreate everything from scratch in OpenSpace, and I think that's what you'd have to do, is kind of scrap everything you were doing if you quit UniView, and you'd have to try to recreate it, and some things you wouldn't be able to recreate. So yeah, it has its limitations for sure. And
so can I bring in here and talk about this just a little bit more? So do you do any? Do you use another program for ground-based, or are you just not doing any?
Oh no, I always do ground-based stuff, and I use Stellarium, and I also use, there's an old version of Nightshade. It's called Nightshade Legacy, and that's pretty good for just your basic night sky tour.
So that is, Jessica, and I'm sure that's kind of one of the main things a lot of people are interested in knowing. That's one of the things that Illuminati's working on developing, using it in concert with Stellarium. So you won't be just using OpenSpace, but basically it's what they call their open playground. World Viewer is kind of their platform to do all of these other programs.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know. I'm just thinking also of like the complex indigenous shows that Jim has spent so much time putting into UniView and getting assets locked in and all of this stuff. And I don't know. I guess I'm frustrated, because I know a lot of people have spent a lot of time working on this stuff with UniView, and I don't just want to
throw it away.
All of a sudden, and throw it away.
Right.
No, that's a good point. I think Jessica, that's definitely a conversation we all should be having over the upcoming months. UniView's in the position where, to continue to be supported, it's going to switch over to Zeiss, and we don't know what model they're going to have for licensing. So we don't know if it's something that we as individual planetariums or we as a network can, kind of afford to keep going that way. So yeah, I think most of us are in the situation where that UniView's working, we don't want to lose it, but we don't know if we're going to be able to keep it working. But before I can demo a little more things, that's another thing Illuminati has a goal is to, and it's one of the things we're continuing to pay our license fee to them for, is they have someone who's working on that capability to incorporate directly from UniView to OpenSpace, because they realize that is necessary. So what Ken is kind of doing now, starting from scratch, Illuminati's really working on us not having to do that.
Yeah, and I want to echo too, it just isn't made for ground-based. So I don't really see right now OpenSpace being a complete answer to all your planetarium needs. It needs to also include some kind of ground-based stellarium or whatever that is, or maybe it's UniView still for you. All right, let me show you a few other things you can do. If I turn on the constellations, let's just really quickly, we'll head out and do kind of the standard zoom out of the galaxy. And again, it's kind of nice to be able to turn this on and off. I've also put my grids onto a keyboard shortcut, and I really like doing that. This is a 1,000 light year grid. And we're just popping out of this, the new volumetric galaxy model of the Milky Way. And something I did myself that I really have always wanted to do, and UniView doesn't do this. In fact, I don't know of any that really does it quite this way, is I tend to get lost when I get out of the Milky Way. And so what I've done is there are bookmarks that you can make. And I have a ton of bookmarks. And I created some bookmarks of galaxy clusters. I'm going to turn on the local group markers. And again, I have another keyboard shortcut. I'm going to turn off the Tully set because that's what's coming on right now. And what I did is I created a mesh sphere that encloses the local group. Now, once I get so far out, they get too faint. So I need to enlarge them. And a quick way to do that, I don't have a shortcut for that, but if you go up to the search menu, and UniView does this as well, and I type in LOC for local group, and then I open that up in the object tree, I can scale those points a lot bigger. And let's scale up the text size as well a little bit more. So now we're looking at the local group, and the sphere that I made encloses the local group. It's about 10 million light years across. And so now I can talk to my audience and say, okay, that's the local group, and now let's turn back on the Tully set. And to help us get our bearings further sort of straightened out, I've did something similar for the Virgo cluster. Now we are not in the Virgo cluster. That's really a neighbor cluster to us. And so the blue sphere is encloses the Virgo cluster, but the Virgo cluster is at the center of the Virgo supercluster, which we are a part of. So now we can see where we are in the Virgo supercluster. We're not at the center. In fact, if I zoom around over here, we're kind of off to one side. Well, there's more to the story than that. There's also this larger structure of kind of a cluster of clusters of galaxies called the Laniakea, and this thing is about 500 million light years across. And we're part of that system too, and that's where we are inside of the Laniakea. And now the Sloan data is about to kick in. And so for the first time, I feel like I can kind of put things together into a context or give a scale to what it is we're seeing. And even if I zoom out to the cosmic background radiation, I can still see the Laniakea super cluster. We're out at the quasars now. So this is really a demonstration that you can make and modify OpenSpace to do some of the things that you've always wanted to do. And this is one I've wanted to do in UniView, and I just didn't have the skills to do it, and was able to figure it out in OpenSpace. Okay, any questions on that?
Those are awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
And now
I did have a question, Ken. Caitlin was just wondering, is it choppy on your screen, or is that just the Zoom internet?
It is probably
Artifact.
a combination of both. And, you know, I've got a lot of stuff turned on. I'm going to
Yeah.
turn off the constellations and the grids here. But it is, I do have kind of a mediocre machine here as well.
Okay.
You can see the
Does it run
Orion.
smooth though in your dome?
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Well, it gets slightly jerky, but not much. It's pretty good. And what I do then is I just move slower. If you move
Okay.
too fast, then you get more of a noticeable jerky effect. But if you just sort of glide, and I think that's always kind of the art of doing a planetarium show, is just this kind of floating, flying view. You don't see it then. So here we are back at home. Let me talk about, by the way, we have labels, which are a shortcut, a built-in shortcut. If you hit the L key, the labels go on and off. And let's zoom in to the Earth. And I have a bunch of shortcuts, and shortcuts are easy, or not shortcuts, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong language. Bookmarks are very easy to set up in OpenSpace, and I have a ton of them. I went completely crazy, and I have probably 75 of them. And I even sat down and I put some of your installations in as bookmarks. And Paul, why don't we go to, I have yours, don't I? Mayo. Yeah, let's just go to Mayo. This is how easy it is. If I click on the little box here, that gives me a marker of where the Rochester Mayo Planetarium is. And I can actually see that marker from space. And if you can see it, it's starting to show right there through the clouds. Now I don't have to use that marker. And then if I hit the little target symbol here, the focus button, then it locks me in. Now I'm locked into the Mayo Planetarium. We can zoom in, the clouds lift away, and I can even turn off that grid if I want, but it's kind of nice to show it there. And all I did is I went out to Wikipedia, picked off these longitude and latitudes, and entered them in, and you enter them into a spreadsheet actually. And the spreadsheet then just sits in a file that you have, and OpenSpace accesses it. Does that look like the right place, Paul?
Yeah, that's Millennium Falcon right there. That's where I work.
There it is. That's right. It does look like the Millennium Falcon. You could even maybe put an image right over the top and superimpose it and really have some fun with that. But there it is. The bell is not here because the bell is actually in this little folder here called Earth 2. Oh, I should say one more thing about bookmarks. Let's say I get into the, get right up to the school and I want to move around. It doesn't move the way you expect to, because the center of your target is actually the high school, and it'll flip you right inside the Earth if you're not careful. So what you should do once you get there and you want to do a little bit of moving around, what you want to do is change your focus back to Earth. Now I can wander around the city of Rochester and follow streets and that kind of thing. Okay? So I've been having a lot of fun with these bookmarks. I've got just about every major landmark programmed in. I have the Great Wall of China, I have Fermilab, these major telescopes, Arecibo, Green Bank, Mauna Kea, tons and tons of them, and they're super easy to navigate. All right. Any questions before I go on to the next thing, which are shortcuts, the built-in OpenSpace shortcuts?
None in the chat.
All right, well, let me talk about the ones that'll work right out of the box when you get this installed. And they're really good ones. This one is something that's not in UniView, which I really like, and it's W, and in my mind, I think wipe. And you can fade to black. It's a nice even fade, which works really well. And so a lot of times I'll queue up OpenSpace ahead of time before my group comes in. And then when we're ready to jump into OpenSpace, all I do is get it full screen and it's all black and everything, and I hit W, and we just fade into view, and it's really a professional looking way of starting a show. And it usually
interrupt you, Ken.
Yep.
So I've noticed that now the target, your focus is at the zenith. That's not in the sweet spot in my dome.
Exactly. Yes.
So is it always like that, or can you set it?
I set it that way. If you go into a fisheye view and you pick the fisheye config file, Earth will actually be at 27 degrees up.
Oh,
but
okay.
I like it just because I'm sitting at my desk. I like it because I do a lot of alignment and that kind of thing when I'm testing here in my office. I like to have the target right dead center. Okay, so, but it doesn't have to be. It can be anywhere you want.
Okay.
And I can also navigate it out of center too. I think it's control middle click. No.
Pan or something like that.
Yeah, there it is. It's control left click, and I can put it down here if I want to. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about the built-in shortcuts. We got W, that wipes it to black, fades to black. H is how I turn on and off orbits. Sometimes that's nice. The orbits get a little distracting at times, and maybe you just want to do a real clean move through space. The G key, basically takes away the shading effects, and everything's kind of illuminated like the Earth. The Earth doesn't have any shadows now. The backside, everything's illuminated. So that's what the G key does. It also wipes out the stars, and I'm not sure why, but I can bring it back by hitting G again. So it's a toggling shortcut. Something similar with B. B just wipes out the background stars if you want to get rid of them for some reason, and including the Milky Way. So that's B. L turns on the labels, the planet labels, and there's a little glitch right here, which I assume will be corrected in the next version. There's a cube mapping issue going on with these labels, and I'm pretty sure that'll be fixed in the later release. It only happens when you get really up close to these labels. What's another one? If you want to take a screenshot, F12. Another one that a lot of people don't know about in OpenSpace, which I really like, is let's say I want to zoom out quickly, and I pull my mouse back, and well, that's not quick enough. If I right click and zoom out and hold the Z key, it's like a turbocharge. Then I can go really fast. I don't know of UniView having something like that. So that's kind of something I use a lot if I want to zoom into a target very, very quickly. I can hold the Z key and really race forward. The tab key wipes out the GUI, so it's a toggling function. My data here at the top, if I hit Shift Tab, that'll take that away, and I have a nice clean circle right here. So this can be nice if maybe you're going to be streaming with OpenSpace and you don't want all that clutter in your view. You can get rid of it with Tab and Shift Tab. Okay. Also, sometimes the GUI gets in the way of all, like how far am I from the focus, and you can read all that information off. Another thing that OpenSpace doesn't have that I really, really miss about UniView is the heads-up display. I used to use that all the time, and there isn't one. I've asked them to put one in, and maybe they will, but it'd be really nice to have that for the audience's benefit if you want to show them how many light years you are from home or whatever. All right. Flight paths. Oh, I'll pause for questions if there's anything.
I have a quick one, Ken.
Yep.
I've asked this before, but maybe you can actually quickly show me too. You know, sometimes I'd mentioned with the GUI, if you're in fisheye, if you select something, where your mouse is not where OpenSpace is reading it. So if you click on a scene, it's picking up something 2 sections below where you want. Mm-hmm. And how do you fix that? I guess it's an alignment thing.
Well,
if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I had that situation happen when I used the other GUI. This is called the web GUI right here, but there's another GUI, and I can't seem to access it. But F1 used to toggle me back and forth in and out of the two GUIs. But do you have that effect in this particular GUI interface?
You know, I don't know if I've played too much with that web GUI.
Yeah, because I had it with the other GUI, and I kind of know why it's doing that. It happens when you use two monitors, and the two monitors are not identically scaled. Somehow it gets confused, and it's using the scaling from your display monitor on your computer monitor, and so things are out of position then.
But you're
that doesn't happen with this GUI though. So just hit F1 and try to get it into this GUI format, and you'll be good.
So F1 switches from the traditional GUI to this web one.
Yeah, and if you want to know, maybe you're not familiar enough with the GUIs, the shortcuts. If you go here to shortcut, they're all listed right here, and you can see they're rendering shortcuts like the W I was talking about. These are all spelled out what they do. And one of the first is GUI. F1 shows the native GUI. So F1 will toggle you back and forth. But there are a lot of other built-in shortcuts. And then when you custom make your own shortcuts like I do, they also will show up in this menu, and you can kind of explore if you're not familiar with what's out there.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Simulation speed. Two ways that you can play with time. One is clicking on here, and this is kind of a tear-off menu. I can place it up here, and I can play it. It's pretty obvious how to use this. It's not that different from UniView, but there's also built-in keyboard shortcuts for doing that as well, and they involve the number keys at the top of the keyboard. And so if I hit 1, I'm at 1 second per second. I'm going to do this all from shortcuts. If I hit 2, now I'm 2 seconds per second. 3 becomes 5, and I'm hitting 4, 5, 6, and you can see how it jumps. And I'm just going to keep climbing, and I get up to 9, 0, and let's make this more interesting. I'm going to turn on the asteroids. Let's turn on the asteroids, and we're going to play with time. So I'm all the way up to 1800 seconds per second. That's not enough to see those asteroids circulating around the sun. So the next level then is the shift. Hold the shift 1, and now I keep climbing. Notice seconds per second goes up, and let's just keep doing this till we see movement. Okay, now I'm at, and you can see the clocks, the time is really racing. Let's go to, I'm shift 6 now. Now I see movement. Shift 7, 8. We're really racing in time. Our clock and calendar is going wild. And I'm focused on the Earth, but I can quickly move to focusing on the sun, and things look a little better that way. So shift 9, shift 0, and then when you're all, and you want to go even faster, then you can go to the control. Control 1 now, control 2, control 3, and now we're going a little bit too wild. I'm just going to go back to real time, so I'll just hit number 1, and we're back to 1 second per second. So that's pretty handy too once you get used to those shortcuts. Like I said, I'm kind of a fanatic about shortcuts because once I get used to them, things can happen really fluidly in the dome. All right. When you want to quit OpenSpace, you hold the escape, and there's kind of a 3-second window of time to cancel that operation. So that's how you quit OpenSpace. I think you can also quit down here. Yeah, there's a quit right here. Flight paths. Let's talk about flight paths. I'm going to focus on the Earth. Let's quickly zoom up to the Earth, and we're going to make a flight path. And the little camera here is how you make flight paths. And this is a pretty new feature as well, and it is really nice. And you can use it for more than just flight paths. In fact, I did a really nifty little thing. And this is another difference between UniView and OpenSpace. We all are familiar with the radiosphere. And I have a keyboard shortcut. No, this is my shortcut, is hitting the R key, and I get the radiosphere. There it is. But one thing that's different about OpenSpace is that this radiosphere actually is accurate to the day, minute, and second. So it's a sphere that's actually growing at the speed of light. I think it's static in UniView. And this can be a nice little lesson because I might want to go back to the beginning where the radio transmissions from Earth were just being sent out. And let's do that. I created a flight path which remembers the date and time of that. So I did this in advance, and I call it the radiosphere 1936. This happened on August 1st, midnight. I don't know how they exactly got to that day, or if that's kind of arbitrary around that time frame. But 1936 was the year that these signals kind of left the Earth. Let's click on it and go back to 1936 instantly. So here we go. I hit play, and it's just, it's really not taking me anywhere. But look at that. Did you see how that happened? How it just it burst out of there? Well, that's the light sphere. That's the radiosphere, and it's growing at the speed of light. Look at that. It's still growing, folks. So here's the sun, and here is our sphere growing at the speed of light. And this is great for audiences because then you can say, you know, the speed of light's super fast, but in the context of the solar system, it takes a little while for light signals to make it to Mars, or make it to Venus, or even to make it to the sun. And sure enough, if you wait 8 minutes, that sphere will grow itself out to the sun. And I think this is really puts things into context. And, you know, and it's kind of funny too, because audience members will get a little bored, like waiting for it to get there. Well, when we're dealing with this largest scale, the speed of light's not so fast anymore. I'm going to speed up the calendar, or my clock right here. So we're on August 1st. I don't want to go an hour. Let's go by, I'm going to jump ahead a minute, another minute, another minute. And once we get around 8, then it'll get out to the sun. There it is. So it takes some time to even get out of the solar system. And of course, if I want to go to right now, I can go to now, the now button, and presto, it's today. Also, I have my own keyboard shortcut for exoplanets. There they are. Let's zoom out rapidly. And you can see all the exoplanets, some in and some outside of the radiosphere. All right. So I thought that was kind of a fun thing to use.
Yeah, that is cool.
All right. I think what we'll do next, I'm going to give a few minutes to ask questions, but I'm going to shut down OpenSpace and I'm going to start digging through the files that underlie OpenSpace so you can see how to make changes from the Lua files. But
So how easy is it for me to get your radiosphere flight path into my dome?
Super easy. It couldn't be any easier. It's a tiny little file, and I would just send, it's probably only 3K, and I would just send that file to you. I'd email it to you, and you'd drop it in the folder and you'd have it. But it's, I'm glad you asked that question because we did not create a flight path. We only used a flight path. Let me show you how easy it is to create a flight path. So we go up to the little camera. We have to give it a name. So we'll call it flight path test. Okay. So now it has a name. And then what we want to do is hit record. And once we hit record, it's remembering every move. So you want to get everything positioned right for the beginning of the recording. And let me get right up to Earth. We'll go from Earth to Mars on this flight path. So I'm going to hit record. It's recording now. So let's come down here. We're going to, it's going to be a very elegant transition, but we will zoom up to Mars. There we are. We see Olympus Mons. We see some volcanoes. We can stop recording. There it is. Now, let me just close that and reopen it. And you can see there's radiosphere, and here's my flight path test. And it's this easy. I want to play it back now, and I hit, I selected it. Now I have to hit play and watch the magic happen. I can interrupt the playback if I want as well. And it's that easy. It's so easy. And again, I can take that little file, and I'll show you once I shut down and we go on digging through the files, I'll show you where that little tiny file lives.
Okay, I don't want that. I don't want that flight path anymore. So how do I delete it?
Oh, you know what? You can't delete it from the GUI. And so when we go and dig into that folder, I'll just delete it out of the folder and then it's gone. Now it gets even better when you tell OpenSpace you want to render out frames. There's an instruction that you can use. It's just a one-line instruction that says, okay, render out frames when I run a flight path. And it will output every single frame into a folder, and it'll work as slick as can be. I played around with that, and it's easy. It's so easy. And you know, it goes a little slower because it's got to like spit out those frames, and like my projector's at 2400 by 2400, so it takes a little while. But once you grab those frames, it plays nice and smoothly in your, you know, if you render it into a movie or something. So really impressive, so easy. Anything else? So
can you edit that saying, you know what, I want it to take twice as long? Can you go into the file and edit the time or something like that?
No, not that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
What you could do is render out at 60 frames a second, and then play with, then you'd have enough frames to work with, and then you could play with within After Effects or wherever you work. I work in Blender. You could speed things up and slow them down. Speeding's up, not a problem, but slowing down, you don't want it to turn jerky. So if you rendered at 60 frames a second, you could slow down and still keep it smooth. So that's how I would do it if I wanted to speed up or slow down.
Can you take those files for those flight paths and then put them into World Viewer as their own movie?
Does World Viewer take frames?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You could take those frames and pop them right in, and
so that flight path would be in a folder, and you just take that folder, put it in your folder in World Viewer, and then put that wherever you want to put it in your World Viewer, and just have it run, and it'll play like a regular movie.
Yeah, I would probably play a little smoother if you rendered it into those frames into a playable movie. But if World Viewer can handle it, yeah, should be that simple. So right here, here you have some control over your. My computer's being really laggy. These are all my images, my PowerPoint images and everything here. And I can go into each one and change their settings. Like I can zoom up and zoom down and change the transparency level. Say I'm zooming this one up, and in the background, you can see that. So you can pick and choose what you want to play with in there.
And does that say, what is that called? Screen space renderables?
Yeah.
Is that what they call kind of their image library, as you would say?
Screen space, from the way I understand it, it's kind of their jargon. Something that's screen space is anything that you kind of lay over the imagery on the dome or on your screen. And so that's exactly what we're doing. It's an overlay. That's what the term screen space is all about.
Can it be a movie too? Do they do videos?
No, No, not movies. Maybe down the road they'll do movies, but not yet. That would be nice, really nice to play a movie this way. Okay, I think we're ready to dig into some of the files. It doesn't like something. Anyway, okay,
Real quick, so just tagging on to what Sally asked, so there's no way to play like a full dome movie file within OpenSpace. That would be something we'd have to build into opening OpenSpace with WorldViewer and inputting movie into that. Is that right?
yeah, the way I understand it, that would be the only way to smoothly play movies over the top of, or, you know, with OpenSpace is with WorldViewer. Or you'd have to like collapse the window and bring out the movie and then, you know, do a hard switch back and forth.
In WorldViewer, you should be able to have OpenSpace up and running on your dome, and then you should be able to overlay a movie right on top of OpenSpace.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was just thinking of rebuilding, if we have to rebuild some of our shows. We have some full dome clips we show within UniView and all of that sort of stuff.
Yep, that would be WorldViewer, not OpenSpace.
Right.
But that's kind of, again, that's kind of Illuminati's goal, is what they say, is you're doing that all within WorldViewer. And just in case any of you don't know, Ken doesn't use WorldViewer.
Yeah,
What?
I've never used WorldViewer before, so
Get with
so
the
if anybody
times.
wants to chime in on WorldViewer, please jump in and
Get with the times, Ken.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm a little weird that way. Oh, let's see, somebody wants to get in. Okay. Well, now it's time to dig into these files. And this is something that, you know, really you have to get used to if you really want to get the most out of OpenSpace. And it's really kind of the same as well with UniView. So first of all, let's say you want to launch OpenSpace. There are two ways to do it. One is to go into the bin file here, and or I mean the bin folder, and run OpenSpace.exe. That'll launch OpenSpace. And so that's where you want to begin with that. So it's hiding in the bin folder, the executable. That's one way to launch OpenSpace. The other way, which also can be problematic, is to go to the launcher. So I'm going to execute my launcher. So I double click there. And notice my launcher comes open, and I'm using the default scene. And there's a little sometimes confusion between, well, what is a scene? You know, we're used to profiles in UniView, and in OpenSpace they use scenes. That'll be changing. OpenSpace is going to, I think over time, not use the term scene and go to profile. Right now they're in a transition for doing that. So, but a scene and a profile are, for the most part, the same thing. And here are some built-in ones that are pretty nice. The Apollo stuff is really, really good. I used this last summer. But there's some nice scenes, and they'll load in all the assets you need to make them work. I also created my own profile. And when I create my own, I use the launcher. Now, the downside of the launcher is that if I hit Start OpenSpace, it'll crash. So here we go. I'm going to try it. Oh, you know what? OpenSpace is still running. I have to quit OpenSpace before I can launch it, right? There we go. Let's try it again. Start OpenSpace. Waits a few seconds, and then it just dies. Now, supposedly there's a way to make it work, but I have to go, you have to tweak something in Windows 10 to make that work, and I just haven't.
Wasn't it working yesterday? Any of you see it yesterday? Adam's demo, it was working for him. It was working from the launcher.
It does work for some people and some
Okay,
machines.
so it's just
and others it
something,
won't. Yeah.
something with yours is not working. Okay.
Something with mine is not, and for mine, it might be the Minnesota State system. You know, they put all this firewall stuff in, and certain system files are not accessible to the user, or certain software. It could be something to do with that. But
I haven't been able to get the launcher to work either.
yeah,
Okay.
a lot of people have troubles with the launcher, but the launcher is still very valuable because it's where you can create your own scene or profile. And I've done that down here. This is something like Uniview. You can pick your display style that you want. So if you wanted to go flat screen or whatever, you could do that here. So you create your profile, and then here's where you can edit it. And here's all the little elements of your scene or your profile that you can make use of. All the parts of digital universe, Milky Way stuff, solar system, turn on planets and moons. Of course, it's just like Uniview. You turn everything on, and then you got this chunky, slow, takes forever to launch. So you don't want to turn everything on, but here's where you can pick and choose what elements of the scene will launch. And I really like this. There's a little window here where I can put in little scripts. And for example, I started mine, and I don't like that the Earth is too far away. It executes a script, and it brings Earth nice and close when it launches OpenSpace. That little pull-up menu on the bottom. These are the items that I want to have show up in it, so I can quickly go to the Earth, Moon, Mars, Venus. So that's kind of slick too. Your anchor node, this is where you're going to be targeted to or focused on when you first start OpenSpace. Most of us choose Earth, but it doesn't have to be. So it's pretty useful.
Wanda, can I bring up something, Ken? It's kind of interesting. I recently learned. So this has like literally the digital universe in it.
Mm-hmm.
The digital universe is like the data set that was developed by the American Museum of Natural History, and it's provided to Uniview and Skyscan and Digistar to incorporate. But when we got a license for Uniview, we got a license to use the digital universe. When we got Digistar in our big theater, we were allowed to have the digital universe in Digistar because we had already gotten the license to it. We've also learned that like they have protections on it, like you can't render out shows with the digital universe to distribute.
Without permission, right.
Without permission. Like we actually just asked permission to use it in our live streams that we're doing online. So just something to know. I mean, I've used Uniview for so many years and it wasn't a problem, but to me, that's kind of interesting that this is open source and you can use it. But of course, it's, the people who developed Digital Universe are the same people developing OpenSpace, so they can allow you to use it.
Yeah,
but other people have to pay for it.
Yeah, there's some sensitivities there with how you use the data, and even streaming is problematic as well. So you want to be careful and get permission when needed. Now, there is an alternative to Digital Universe. And let's see if I can find it. Is it under here? Just hold on, stars. Yeah. See where it says stars here? I can click on Denver, and I can click out of digital, shut everything on Digital Universe off, and turn on Denver, and I've got a star set. And so you got some basic stuff. And I don't know how, if Denver's picky about getting permission.
Yeah, no, I think that's the point, is Denver wanted to make their own because they weren't quite, they weren't satisfied with the digital universe, but then it appears that they made theirs available for anyone to use without permission.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you don't have to ask for permission from
Maybe
Denver,
you want to check. That's my understanding.
Okay.
So like, I think Dan Tell said that from Cal Academy when they render out shows from Uniview, they don't use the digital universe, they use Denver's.
Yep. Okay. So it's probably a lot more flexible in that sense using this data set. So
yeah,
there it is if you need it. So And I have played with it a little bit, and it, you know, I don't know if there's as many stars, but you know, the important ones are there. So anyway, that's the launcher, and so I use it strictly for making my own profiles.
But if you can't launch your profile, oh, you got to launch your profile.
You can. I'll show you how to do that next.
You got to do it from inside the folders then. Okay.
Yeah. So now when I launch, again, if we'll back up a level, go to the bin folder, we launch from here. Now you might wonder, well, how do you know what's actually going to launch? And if I come down to this config file, this is a really important one. You want to really pay attention to what's going on inside this file.
Adam said make a copy of it before you do anything.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Make a copy. Of course, because the software is free, you can always download another version copy and pull it out of there if you get desperate. But there it is. By default, let's go through this. If you start at the top, notice these little dashes, those are comment lines. And so these instructions are all commented out, so they do not get executed at all. But they're nice to have in there because you might want to use them. So if we remove the comment, oops, not that one, this one. If we remove the comment, and now this is the one that my single fisheye, that's what I've been using. I better comment that one so it's not trying to execute both. But this is the default. This is the flat screen mode, and it'll give you 1280 by 720 pixels. And that's all you do then. And then I'd hit save, and then this one would, this configuration would launch. Now, if I scroll a little further, there are a list of scenes or profiles, if you want to call them profiles. And I have it set for default. If I want to switch to my own, then I have to remove the comment line and put in the comment line there. And now I will launch my own personal profile. I have to hit save, go to the bin file, the bin folder, and launch, and it's that easy. So that's pretty easy.
And it's for the profile and the like geometry. You have to,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
the same place to change both those things.
Yep.
Or one. I mean, you don't have to change both, but that's where you find those.
Okay, now I'm going to exit out of this, and I'm not going to save, but there's another important place you want to look. Actually, I'm going to go through all of these and which ones are important and which ones you can ignore. We come down here to config. This is where all the different projection formats are. And the one I was using, by the way, single does not mean single screen. The word single means single projector. Okay. Some of these I don't know what they do. But anyway, so we want single fisheye is the one that I was showing you earlier. Let's go in and look at it. Let's talk about what some of these things are. Okay, notice resolution. We should really talk about resolution. I have it set for 1K resolution right there. But you can change that to whatever you want it to be. And quality is really important as well. And I'm set at a quality equal to medium. And it says up here that medium is actually 512 pixels. And what that means, that's in order for, I think UniView does something similar to this as well, but in order for OpenSpace to create a fisheye image, what it does is it takes a cube and it maps to the faces of a cube, and a cube has 6 sides. And that allows it to look in all the various directions. And when I'm set at medium, that's telling me the resolution of the cube. That's different than the resolution of your dome circle. Typically, the quality level doesn't have to be as high. So down in my dome, I'm at 2K. I can actually render out 2.5K, 2.4K, but this is plenty. I might even get away with lowering it to 1024. So you know, you're just going to have to play, you know, depending on what your hardware you're using, play with these numbers. But don't go too high. Don't think you want to go to 4K or something, because everything will just bog down and become a problem. So anyway, so there's a distinction there between your dome resolution and this cube map resolution. Now, if we move down here, remember how I had the tilt set at 90? This is something you would set to maybe 30 degrees for your dome, and that would be a lot better. Another thing you'll notice, background, this can drive you crazy too, till I found this. If you notice, when I had my dome circle projected, the boundary outside of the dome circle was kind of a gray, and inside the circle was more black. And this is the color of that boundary. And this is the RGB settings give you gray. Well, when you're in the dome, you don't want gray, because then that's shooting gray light below your spring line, and that looks terrible. So you want to change that to black. So go 0, 0, 0 right there, so you're not projecting stray light any more than you have to. And that's about it for that file. Any questions about what you're seeing? Notice it says window full screen false, because it's windowed when it launches, it's in windowed mode. So this embeds the GUI on top of the fisheye view. Okay, what I want to do now is grab the one that I use in my dome and show you how that's different. So here's my dome. And there are two sections of this. One is for the projection, and the other is for the display monitor. Okay, so let's kind of walk through this. This gets a little bit tricky because we're using effectively we're using two monitors. The left monitor is your display where you want your GUI. The right one is going to be your projection. I'm running at 2400 by 2400. And I have my, I'm not sure what that is.
It's your frame buffer resolution.
Yeah, whatever that is. I just leave that alone. Also, let's move down here to, I'm missing something. Oh, let's back up right here. This is really important because this is offsetting. This is basically telling OpenSpace where your dome view is going to be positioned from your main GUI monitor.
So it's that many pixels to the right?
Yeah, and it's a formula. And it's kind of tricky, but I've drawn this thing up. Okay, so my monitor is 1600 pixels across. And I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment because I hand drew this just before. And let me, this isn't going to work.
Yeah, hold it right against your chest.
Take away my background here. Let me take away my background because it's messing me up. This green screen effect is sometimes a pain. Okay, can you guys all see that?
Back it up a little bit.
Okay.
To your left.
Make it bigger. Okay, there we go. This is how that works. Remember the 2320 right here? That was the number that I had highlighted in that previous screen. Okay, so this is your GUI monitor. Mine is 1600 pixels across. Okay, and here's my larger 4K projector. And that projects 3,840 pixels wide by 2,400 pixels tall. Okay, and that means that'll work with a dome circle with a radius of 1,200 pixels. So what you want to do when you enter that number is you need to do a little bit of math. And you need to, in red here, that's the distance you want to calculate. So that's the distance from your left corner of your GUI monitor all the way to the point where your dome circle begins. Okay, so I had to take 3840, subtract 1200, and that leaves me with a gap here of 720 pixels. And when I add 720 to 1600, I get 2320. Does that make sense? You might want to take a screenshot of that. I know your numbers wouldn't be exactly the same, but that picture will help you a great deal.
I just took a screenshot. I'm making a notes document, so I'll put it in there. That is helpful.
Okay, good, because that's how you do the calculation. All right, so now let's go back to a screen share. So that's where the 2320 has to get entered. Really, really important. Leave the 2048 by 2048. All these are comments, by the way. They're not actually doing anything. And this becomes really important. Notice my background, R, G, and B are set to 0, so I have a black boundary outside of my circle. I'm at a quality of 2K. If you're less than what I have 2.4K resolution in my dome. You might want to drop that to 1K and you'll probably get a little better performance. My tilt is set at 27 degrees, which is pretty good, pretty standard. And down here is my, this should be a 1600. There's my 1600 by 800. This is my GUI monitor right here. And everything else can kind of stay the same, I think, for you. Okay. If you do need help getting this file set up, let me know and I can maybe help look it over if it's not working. Another approach you could use is that when you go into the OpenSpace folder and go into config, and if you have a single with a GUI, single fisheye GUI. I think this is the one, this is the standard one you'd need to go in and edit. Let's go look at it. Yeah, you need to update these numbers to fit your resolution with what we just talked about. Okay. So that's the file I would start with. Right there, single fisheye GUI. Also, are there a lot of people out there that still use truncation? Zach?
I do.
Zach does?
I do as well.
Okay, good. Well, OpenSpace will allow truncation, and it's just a matter of 2 lines of instruction into that. Let me grab them. I'm going to.
Thank goodness you did the heavy lifting on that one, Ken. I wasn't going to figure that one out on truncation. Yeah,
I did a lot of digging on that one to come up with the instructions and then how the instructions actually fit. I mean, it was kind of a goose chase, but I managed to make it work. Let me grab the 2 instructions, and you'll all want to use these instructions to truncate and or offset. Do you guys know what offset means? Offset is if your projector is not dead center in your dome and it's maybe to the back or to the side or to the front. Well, you can correct for that quite easily. So let's see, let's go back to that file, config. We wanted single fisheye GUI. And what you need to do is right here, create a little bit of space, and I'm just going to paste the 2 magic instructions right there. What this is basically doing, and I know Sarah, this is these are the settings yours would take up in Moorhead.
I think she's gone.
Oh, okay. Basically what this does is it truncates off 37.5% in the north of you. So this is actually a cropping instruction. You can actually crop from the left, the right, the bottom, whatever, but for us it's usually the top. So that'll clip off 37.5% of the north end of the dome circle. If your projector is not dead center, then you can use this instruction. And I helped Zach, and this is the instruction this is the number I just guessed for Zach's. It's pretty extreme numbers. Your number probably wouldn't be as big, but in the Y direction, this basically moves the projector. So you'd want to tweak probably just this number, and you'd probably want to go a lot lower than 0.75. Maybe start at 0.1 or 0.2. Okay. Another kind of word of advice is I would not use both of these instructions at the same time the first time you do it. Pick one or the other, get it working, then do the other one, get it working, and then throw the two together, and hopefully it works. But the main one is cropping. Most people don't really bother with offset correction because usually you can kind of get by without correcting. So how's our time doing anyway? So we're about out of time, aren't we? I think I covered most of what I was planning on.
What did one frog say to the other frog?
What's that?
Time's sure fun when you're having flies.
There you go.
So I have a question that may be better off for another meeting or discussion. But did you have paid shows that you switched from UniView to OpenSpace? And if so, how did audiences take that? Because I feel like with OpenSpace as is, we would be giving a lower quality show.
Mm-hmm. I used OpenSpace right off the bat, and I did basic things. See, my shows typically consist of a canned show, which lasts 20 to 30 minutes, and then I do live stuff, and that usually starts with ground base, you know, what's out tonight, and I use Stellarium or the old legacy version of Nightshade, and then I jump into OpenSpace, and we like go visit Mars, or you know, kind of a basic thing. My first hurrah into like, okay, we're going to do a full-blown OpenSpace show was my Apollo stuff. And that was a big, big hit and made the front page of the paper. It just depends on what you're doing and how you're organizing your show. So I didn't find that at all, but I do maybe a different format than what other people are doing. What I would suggest as well is during this pandemic time, there are a lot of people doing outreach on YouTube and Facebook. Watch some of their presentations, and there are a lot of them now on OpenSpace. And they are really impressive what they're doing with it. And to me, that's the best way to kind of get ideas, is just to see what other people are doing and then just copycat. And then maybe mix and match, and then maybe add a thing here, another thing there, and just go that way. But yeah. Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, question from Glenn. We're talking about like when you went a bit out to like the extragalactic, are there other galaxies and clusters and large scale structures in OpenSpace?
Well, it's pretty much the same as UniView. You've got the Tully set, you got the Sloan, you know, because that's all digital universe. And then you got the quasars, you got the Planck background radiation. Also, there's another kind of interesting thing too. When you zoom that far out, you can actually put other bubble universes and show that, you know, this is our universe, but you know, another location would see this, and you can kind of throw these random ones out there. That's kind of cool. Then you also have the other ones like the 2-degree field view, the 6-degree. You've got Able. All the same ones in UniView are all in OpenSpace.
Can you lock in on the Andromeda? Can you focus your aim on the Andromeda? Is that an asset that you can zoom up to?
It wouldn't look very nice because it's just an image. It's just a flat image right now. But I could, there isn't one, but I could create one. I could create what I'd basically do there is create a bookmark for the Andromeda Galaxy, and I would turn Tully images on, and you could fly up close. So it would look a little, you know how it is. It's just an image, a flat image, just kind of parked there in space. And so you get too close, and it looks a little fakey. But yeah, you can do that. You're not going to see a volumetric there.
Right.
And UniView doesn't have a volumetric for Andromeda, does it?
It's got a pretty decent one.
Oh, okay. It's probably not as nice as UniView's. Okay.
So Ken, just one thing. So you said something about World Viewer, and Sally's kind of been talking about Illuminati, and their goal and what they're driving for is so that in World Viewer you can have OpenSpace, you can have Stellarium, you can have UniView. They're working on getting Google Earth in there so that you can actually flip seamlessly right between all of those applications. And in World Viewer, like I mentioned earlier, you can overlay images and movies right on top of OpenSpace. And it's just how you layer them inside the chapters of your composition.
Mm-hmm.
And these last few weeks I've been working pretty in depth with World Viewer, and I'm getting to like it. So a year and a half ago, when Adam came and he put this UniView spouted through World Viewer on my computer, I was very upset because it changed everything, how I used to run everything. But now that I've gotten used to working through that World Viewer, now I throw everything in there and build it all right on top of each other in World Viewer.
That sounds very cool. You should consider doing one of these presentations.
That's what I was just gonna say. You've got 2 invites. Yeah, we won't put you on the spot there, Paul. But yeah, I mean yes, I just want to say, I mean, I know, hi Adam, you might be watching this too, but we're all Illuminati customers right now, and they're including the Bell Museum. We still run it in our Solardome. So, we're thinking forward to keep our planetariums running, and what are the options out there now that our reliable option has gone away. And, that's a kind of a conversation for us all to be considering. Jessica's points that you've brought up are very important things to consider. And so I just wanted to take this opportunity for us to see really what it's like to be running OpenSpace in a teaching dome like many of us are in, to start kind of having those thoughts and conversations amongst us at our institutions, amongst us in our network. What are things going to be like 6 months from now, a year from now, and making sure that we're running good programming with a software that we can easily use, and it's at a reasonable cost. That's what we all want, and so that's what we're working toward. And I'm not Illuminati, I'm not selling things, so I'm not the one that's going to say what the best product is for everybody. That's kind of decisions we have to make ourselves and make the best informed decisions.
There was something else that they made me aware of with the World Viewer, is that if I build a composition in World Viewer, I can bundle it, export it, put it in their store, and then you can download it, put it on your World Viewer, and then you can play it on your dome. So they have that capability as well.
One thing I found too about delving into OpenSpace, and it's this way with UniView too, it's kind of a painful process because there's so much to learn. It's overwhelming, and there's Lua scripting involved, and I'm not a programmer, but I found that I feel like now I've gotten to a point after a month of this pandemic and really diving in, I feel like I can kind of start doing things that I've always wanted to do. But it's a long road to get there. It's kind of a painful road too. But hopefully you do a little bit, and a lot of it's just trying things and looking around, digging around at what other people are doing, and you feel blind most of the time in what you're doing. And then all of a sudden you have a breakthrough, and it feels really good. And then it's back to the drawing board. And so just kind of expect some of that pain, but I'm here to help if anyone wants to minimize the pain some and wants a little help to move into bookmarks or whatever. I'm happy to help you out and get you on your feet. Another kind of difficulty is there's not much documentation out there. It's just hard to come by. So it's learning from each other is really the main thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing about WorldViewer too, but OpenSpace is, like Ken said, he can send you the file for his flight path. Paul said, I can send you the composition I just made. So we're not all, you know, building everything from the ground up. It's, you know, it's a good opportunity to be able to share what we're doing. So it's less work all around.
Mm. Paul, I was going to show you where that file sits. So when I go, this is the main directory of OpenSpace. And if you look right here are recordings. And this is the one we did, flight test path. It's only 18K.
I don't want that
that's
one.
what
I
I would
want your
send
radio.
you, and you throw it in that folder, and that's all there is to it. Here's my radio sphere. I have
Yeah,
a
that's the
home
one I want.
Earth. It's super easy. Screenshots show up here. Let's see, I think I did some, I guess I didn't on this machine. So this is where all your frames would show up. Sync, this is where Digital Universe and all that is hiding. Scripts are really important. I create my own scripts, and they go in this file, the customization. So these are all ones, I didn't like write them, but I kind of collected them and tweaked them, and I use them to do things like, I like the planet labels to be yellow, not white. So this changes every planet to a yellowish label, you know, stuff like that. And they're easy to share.
Now, Sally, I was kind of sold on this OpenSpace thing with the understanding that we could take profiles from Uniview and dump them right into OpenSpace.
It's like I said, that's the ultimate goal. Adam says he's done it for some other customers, or a couple of them, and it does take time, but that's what he's working on with Clay at Illuminati, also to build a framework to make it easier.
Oh,
so,
well, if they come up with something like that, they'll have something they can sell, because I don't know. To me, it just sounds like you have to start over, but if they can come up with a process for that, that'll help a lot of people out.
Yeah.
The problem, though, is that there's not one-to-one corresponding features. So I don't know what happens there.
I think that's when we asked Dan Tell just to give us everything.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, Illuminati's also working with OpenSpace. They're not just like taking OpenSpace and doing their own thing with it. Like they're doing like you are, Ken, and I know OpenSpace is very open to that. They want to get input from the user community on how to make this better and get more people using it.
Well, one thing I'm going to echo to the OpenSpace people that you guys, I felt strongly indicated that we need improved ground-based features in OpenSpace. I'm going to definitely communicate that back to them. They already know they want to go that direction, but I'll just reinforce that that's what this group really wants to see. This data folder is important as well. This is where all your assets and like all my images are hiding, you know, like PowerPoints. So I should have mentioned that too, but assets, these are where all the scenes or profiles are sitting.
I don't even use Uniview to do ground-based astronomy. I use Stellarium. So if they had the functionality that Stellarium has, One of the problems with Stellarium is it's very Java script run, so it is kind of boggy, but it has all the tools that it has in there with the lines and the angles and the grids and all that kind of stuff. Those are the kind of things that would be nice to see in OpenSpace.
Yeah, and one of the things too about OpenSpace is it's still being developed, it's still beta, and it's, you know, it's probably going to change a lot if you project ahead 2 years. So a lot of things kind of come in, they're kind of temporary, and then they kind of do it another way. But it has really made huge strides in the last, I'd say, 18 months.
Well, I think it's
something that wasn't really very usable.
yeah.
But to now, I feel like it's just starting to get something to be powerful and useful.
Well, I think it's really interesting that, you know, you did not bring up what has been the main feature of just about every demo that I've seen is the high resolution planetary textures. And I think that's kind of is what the OpenSpace developers and Carter, like that's what they are really excited about using it for. So, which I think is great, but I wanted to be able to show people that, you know, there's so much more you can do and not have to rely on that. If that's not something that's a focus of your programming, what else can it do?
And that's true. Every tutorial or every a lesson that people have been putting out there has been pretty much mostly that, like exploring Venus or Mars or something. And so I've seen so much of that that I didn't even go there with this, and unintentionally. But but yeah, it has beautiful layering that goes on. Some incredible Mars scenery that just some of it's breathtaking. And that is really a big strength of OpenSpace is how easy and how great it looks when you zoom down in and fly down into Valles Marineris or something.
Yeah,
it's spectacular.
I think it's so tough that we're not making a choice to move to OpenSpace or move to something else besides UniView. It was kind of forced on us. And if you think about starting any new software, your programming is going to be based on its capabilities. You know, what it can do, you're going to design programming to do that. And, you know, right now OpenSpace doesn't have everything. So we have to relearn another software and change what some of our programming is if it really becomes that we can't use UniView anymore, which, you know, honestly, I don't know what it's going to be like down the road. So you know, again, that's why I wanted you to show that, you know, this was an active switch to OpenSpace from UniView. That's another perspective that, you know, all of the rest of us in the network, we're, you know, something that it's not our choice, but we want to just see if it's the right thing for us.
Very good. Well, I think we should wrap this thing up. If there are any last questions before we hang up. And you all know there's a WIMPS meeting this Saturday. So hopefully, if you want more information, can I have them contact you, Sally?
Oh yeah,
the login
definitely.
information and stuff. Should be a great meeting. It has a nice full agenda. Lots of interesting talks. I'm looking forward to it. It's on Zoom.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Well,
thanks so much, Ken.
Really you're welcome. I felt a little disorganized, but I think we covered everything one way or another, the main points I wanted to get through. So just let me know if you have any questions. And everyone Ken. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you, Ken.
Bye.
Now, how do you get out of this thing?
Hit end meeting.
Oh, I got a leave button over here.
Here, I'll do it. End meeting.